Okay, awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and officially kick this meeting off. Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. My name is Alex Vasquez. I am the cohort chair for the Latino/Hispanic cohort that is part of the anti-task force. And today, before we get started, I just want to apologize for everyone for creating this meeting at the last minute. I know that we were really striving to give people ample time to be able to attend these meetings. And unfortunately, this is probably the best time that works for our cohort. And given the very limited amount of time that we have overall to make these recommendations to the county, we felt best to move forward with this meeting, especially since we will be discussing our plan of action for today. So moving forward, we will definitely do our best to ensure that we give ample time for community members that want to listen in on these conversations to do so as well. With that being said, I do want to start off with a round of introductions. This is our first official formal meeting of the Latino/Hispanic cohort. I know that we had an opportunity last meeting in the previous initial meeting to introduce ourselves, but I think since we have all the members of the Latino/Hispanic cohort here, if members can just take about 2 minutes to introduce themselves, what type of capacity they are coming into the space in, and what you wish to bring to the table to the overall anti-task force as well. So I'll go ahead and kick things off, and then I will pass it over to Nora, followed by Ruben, followed by Danielle, and then followed by Vanessa. So my name is Alex Vasquez. I am a proud Mexican immigrant, Montgomery County resident. I do work with the CASA organization as a community organizer, but I'm also here on my personal capacity as a Montgomery County resident. And so it is definitely a pleasure to not only be invited to partake in this task force, but to also make meaningful recommendations to the council and other government agencies as needed. As I said previously in the previous meeting, I am looking to hear a lot from our community members, especially our Latino/Hispanic community members. There's going to be a lot that we're going to learn in the next few weeks, or we hope to learn in the next few weeks, and really taking that information and having fruitful and robust conversations on some policy recommendations that we can give to the council in a few weeks or in a few months. So I'll go ahead and then pass it over to Nora.
Thank you so much, Alex. Hi, everyone. Mi nombre es Nora Morales. I am one of the program directors at Identity. We are located in Gaithersburg, Maryland. We're a nonprofit youth development organization, and I'm in charge of community and civic engagement, among other programs at Identity. My background is formerly vice president of the Mid-Atlantic Equity Consortium. That is an equity center for Region 1 and for the U.S. Department of Education and the Office for Civil Rights. And I formerly worked at Prince George's County Public Schools as the diversity officer. So I am really happy to be doing this work again and hoping we come forth with some great solutions for our county, because I'm Latina, I'm Mexican, born in Mexico and raised in the US. So thanks. And I will pass it off to Ruben, you said?
So hi everyone. So my name is Ruben Meana Pañeda, and I'm here on personal capacity. I'm a Spanish immigrant, a community leader, and I have been really active, not only on the relationships with our Latino and Hispanic community in our county, and also with the county council. Also, I've been involved on the PTAs of several schools. I know, it's all the problems that the families in our area, they are struggling. And I've been also involved in different associations like Communities United Against Hate. And I think that I can bring here a little bit of expertise interacting with government and communities. And I'm looking forward to work with you and came up with solutions. Thank you.
Daniel?
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Centeno. I'm originally from El Salvador. Also, I'm a Montgomery County resident. I'm the sports director and youth development person at Impact Silver Spring, and also a network builder in the area of Long Branch and adjacent to Langley Park. So it's one of the areas at risk right now for youth. And I was really taken out by this. I have the opportunity to be part of this and help in any way my community and all the struggles that we're having at the moment. Yep.
And Vanessa?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Vanessa Pinto. I'm originally from Bolivia, and I am a Long Branch resident here in Silver Spring since 2001. And so I've been for years a volunteer, and also I was a literacy in Spanish teacher for the YMCA, and now yeah, I'm volunteering in different organizations like Impact Silver Spring, and yeah. So now since 2014, I've been working with CHEER, which is a community health and empowerment through educational research, which is a community-based a nonprofit organization, very local in Long Branch and Tacoma only. And I'm the Empowerment and Leadership Development Program Director. So I've been actively working out in with community members, and since 2020, I also coordinate a food distribution site in New Hampshire State Elementary School, which is allowing us since then to work more with the youth, because I'm coordinating with them. And also we have now a youth initiative, a Long Branch LBK, a Long Branch Community Action for Youth. And yeah, working with youth as well. Yes, thank you so much. And what yeah, I have some questions about what I would like to get from here is really going to the roots of the problem itself. So maybe we can start there, coming up with some real applicable suggestions, ideas. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you everyone for taking the time to introduce themselves and kind of share with everyone your commitment to this space. One of the first things of business that we want to take care of is electing a co-chair or a vice chair. I think that when we first joined in our second meeting, we were caught a little bit by surprise, right, in regards to us having a limited amount of time to really select a chair and then have a date. I know that we were missing some members, and so I appreciate Nora and Ruben for the last minute nomination, right? And I'm very thankful and grateful for the nomination, and I hope to really just support the entire process in the ways that I can. But I also do want to find ways that we can nominate this vice chair, right? So that way this particular person can assist on days that I'm not able to lead or call these meetings, and also overall help assist with the process. And so I want to open up the floor to anyone who has some suggestions in regards to how we want to proceed with nominating a vice chair, or if someone also has a recommendation or a self-nomination in mind.
I nominate Ruben.
Thank you, Nora.
So just a question. So do we already decided on how we're gonna do the process of election?
No, we haven't. So Vanessa, I think, I guess now is the space where if anyone has some suggestions on how we can do this process, it would be great.
Okay. So can someone explain what the process may be? Because or are we gonna use the typical, meaning the typical by consensus? Like, I think we know that there are other ways, maybe consent based, for example. But if we want to be very practical, because I know that the time is very valuable here. There are many things that we need to accomplish at the same time. I don't know. I would like to hear some other ideas on how we can do this.
Yeah, so I think I'll make a suggestion. I think that I'm okay where if there's someone that wants to take on this role and self-nominate themselves, that's fine. I think one of the things to keep in mind is someone who has the capacity and time, right, to really take on this this initiative, right? And so I think that's probably one of the bigger criterias. But I think I'm okay with, if someone wants to nominate another person, or if someone feels that, want to self-nominate themselves, right? I'm okay with that process as well. I'm not sure what others think.
Yeah. But I don't know the rest. I'm kind of lost here. So in order to decide on something like this, so do we know, like, and please help me remember, so how long this committee will be working, and of course from that, how often we're gonna meet, and maybe in general what the maybe the functions would be for this co-chair.
Yeah, so Bertha, I don't,
Yeah.
so I think, why don't we do this, right? Because we do have on the agenda item, Bertha talking a little bit about the deliverables, right? So I think that if we can table this, the nomination of the co-chair for now, Bertha, if you want to go ahead and just kind of explain to the group like the deliverables and responsibilities, and then maybe perhaps we can revisit this particular issue towards the end. Later on the agenda, that's exactly what we'll be discussing today, right? A plan of action based on how we can get to those deliverables. And it'll really be up to us to kind of formulate and have that discussion on how many events, how many times we should be meeting, and ways that we should go about it. So if that's okay with everyone, can I just pass it to Bertha to talk a little bit about the deliverables?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I will mention that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full task force meetings left, where each of the cohorts is going to make a presentation with their recommendations. And I'm about to post that information into the chat. The very last meeting, which is November 28th at 7 p.m., will be when the full task force will come together and present their their recommendations that you already would have worked on. Let me just add that information here so you can have it in front of you. But between now and then, each cohort is actually being tasked with meeting separately like you are right now. And there's really no limit to the times that you can come together. Also, you are encouraged to hold community listening sessions. I know that right now there's, like last night, for example, I think I shared a little bit of this earlier, is that the Muslim cohort came together and they're going to meet again as a cohort on Monday, where they're going to have research policy recommendations so that the cohort can then adopt 10 recommendations that they will then bring to a full community listening session the following Monday. So now we're talking August 21st. So that's sort of an example of how other cohorts are organizing themselves. I do know that, later today, there's another cohort that's going to meet, and they're already also planning to holding a community listening session. So it's really up to you. I know that, you know, time certainly is a constraint for some. You are scheduled to make your presentations October 10th. So really you do have about 2 months to now, you know, continue holding your cohort meetings and or community listening sessions. From our last meeting, you had discussed that you were certainly very much, you know, planning on holding and bringing our community together because, you know, it's also hearing from our community, right? That there's a lot of interest from all the cohorts as well. So yes, I mean, the time commitment, Vanessa, to your point, so you're already required to attend the full task force meetings that I posted on the chat here. And then as a member of the Latino Hispanic cohort, you're also required to meet, you know, with the group in order to come up with the policy recommendations that you'll be presenting to the full group October 10th. So yeah, it is, it's certainly a time commitment. And my role here is to facilitate and make, you know, this work feasible for you as well. So, you know, I will be supporting you with the logistics, scheduling, organizing, any other questions that you may have that I don't have the answer to, I will, you know, get you an answer. So if there are, like Alex said, someone who wants to self-nominate and then at the end you take a vote, you can certainly do that. But yeah, I can also drop in the chat. So in my last update to everyone, I included, Selena and I included sample reports so that you can, and I know that everyone here is fully aware of, you know, or maybe are already thinking of the different policy recommendations, but to see how other jurisdictions who are working on the same issue and topic, how they're presenting their policy recommendations, I found that to be helpful with the sample reports that I sent your way. So again, just, you know, just look at the recommendations, and then we'll generate the report and everything else. But really your task, and I will read from the council approved resolution. It was, so the Montgomery County Anti-Hate Task Force will prioritize policies that promote safety and combat hate crime and incidents against BIPOC constituents, and policies that combat racism, which can include hate against Black and African American, Asian and Pacific Islander, Latino, Hispanic, Jewish, Muslim, immigrant, LGBTQ+ individuals or other communities. Now, the action item, which you know, we had touched on already, the full task force must submit and present its final report with any recommendations for legislation, regulations, policies, and procedures to the council no later than November 28th, 2023. Each recommendation has to include a rationale. Latino Hispanic cohort will be presenting to the full group on October 10th, 2023. We are also asking that you keep and you know, this is per council guidance, that you keep your recommendations to no more than 5 recommendations, but you can certainly include any additional recommendations that you may have in an appendix. And then your recommendations can also be addressed to other agencies outside of county government, and you know, MCPS is a clear example, right? This is work that definitely has different layers, not just contained to county government. So you'll just have to make clear, because the council cannot dictate policy for MCPS, although they do, you know, they do have fiscal authority, but they cannot dictate policy. In your report recommendations, you can address there that, you know, this is outside of council jurisdiction, but it, you know, it's intended for the Board of Education. And when MCPS presented at the last meeting, they're very much eager and interested in partnering with our community in bringing real solutions to the table as well. So they're very open to receiving these recommendations. And like I said to you, there are no requirements to a number of meetings your cohort here can have between now and the date when you're presenting. And also you can host community listening sessions, whether it's virtual, like I mentioned to you, the Muslim cohort is going to have theirs in 2 weeks, where it's going to be a virtual community listening session, where they're going to bring policy recommendations so that they can hear from their community and start tailoring and capturing that feedback and narrowing down what they want their 5 policy recommendations to be. Okay, the last thing I have here, so your cohort presentation should last no more than 30 minutes. We will have a Q&A following each cohort presentation. And after you're done with your presentation, you're certainly expected to continue attending the full task force meetings that I just copied into the chat and support other cohorts or listening sessions. I will also mention that from our Muslim cohort yesterday, because their presentation is actually coming up in September, they said, well, we can actually, after we present, we would want to go back again to our community and continue gathering feedback. So again, there's really no limit to what the sort of intentional, authentic community engagement that you can do. Nora, I saw that you had your hand raised.
Thank you. Yes, Berta, I have a couple questions. So the Orange County sample is what you were referring to as the sample?
I will include in the link. Actually, there were 3 reports. The Orange County was an attachment and it was just a 1-pager. There were 2 other reports. One, it was the report of the Hate Crimes Advisory Working Group. This was Washington State Office of the Attorney General. It was this one. I will copy paste the link here so you can have it. But I can actually mention here. So the way that they organize their recommendations, you have here, I'm sorry, this is terrible. I will send you the link.
Just tell us the page that we should look at.
Yes, but first let me copy paste. I actually have that in front of me right here.
Are you putting in the chat?
Yeah, I'll copy there. Give me 1
And then I guess my questions were, is the recommendation we follow these kinds of formats? Because what I've noticed, and I don't know if the one you just pasted is the same, but by the way, we got an error.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. But I'm wondering if it's pretty general. The recommendations are pretty general. And so, and I mean, I know, Vanessa, I think I've met you before because I think we took a group of your cheer people to Rio Palooza last year. And I know Alex too, and his work. And I'm just wondering, would it be out of place to organize recommendations based on the areas that we think Latinos it would impact most Latinos? Let's say, for instance, one thing we hear across the county is the lack of language access, right? So recommendations for increasing language access across the county, and how that ties into the state mandates and laws around public institutions having language access. And then health, anything that we know about health or housing. I'm just thinking like the big areas, housing, health, workforce, education, and maybe we could come up with a few that are very specific to topics. And I don't know how, I'm just making it up. Obviously, we all have to decide this together, but I just think that one of the benefits of having this task force is to ground it in context and reality, right? And not just have another, well, have more listening sessions and have more of it, because I feel like identity does, identity and casa together. We've done them together, and listening sessions forever. And we know a little bit about what the community needs and where they're finding the most difficulty. And I don't know if that is like, I think what's hard for me, I'm just going to speak for myself, around the task force is the hate and bias directed at Latinos is not as explicit as right now it is for anti-Semitic acts, for instance, but it is insidious and it's implicit and it is systemic across all areas. And that is almost harder to pinpoint than if we had groups of kids that were, or areas of the county where there was graffiti against Latinos, right? The fact that like we can't get language access during parent-teacher conferences, or the fact that we can't get some documents in Spanish when we're trying to register for social services, right? Like those to me seem like very concrete ways and insidious ways and implicit ways that the system kind of shuts us out. But it is not like anyone's calling us any names or, like, you know what I'm saying? We're not experiencing like explicit hatred. We're do I sound? Yeah.
Can I go? Sorry, I have the hand out.
Go on.
Okay. So so there are many parts here, I think, and the reason I ask because I think we were talking about, okay, can we find a co-chair here? And the reason I asked for what are the duties that people like, because I don't know even like what Alex's role is, because I think between these two people can give us the lines on how we're going to start this conversation. And I would like for first, I just imagine like Nora, right? Mention, sorry, Nora, no, what was it? Sorry. The person who was before me. So she has some ideas, but where are we going to start? Like, can we start? I would like all of us to start in the same page, or how are we understanding, like even the word hate, how that looks like in our community, how that is like starting the same page, because we may have different ideas of the concept, and may all of us have assumptions. So I think we all need to start in the same page. But who's gonna give us those lines of guidance of how we're gonna start this conversation? Because if we don't do that, we can talk about different things all the time.
Yeah, so Vanessa, I think that's the reason why we are meeting today, right? And so suddenly, because I think that we want to have this conversation and kind of find ways that we can get to our deliverables, right? Nora already kind of mentioned, her perspective and point of view, and bringing her lived experience as someone who has hosted plenty of listening sessions, right? And so I think that we want to have that conversation, see how you see it, see how Ruben sees it, see how Danielle sees it, right? And then kind of just, have that conversation. Is there someone who is bringing something that makes more sense to the overall group, right? Is there another meeting that we're going to have after this because we weren't able to somewhat reach a consensus, right? And so I think that right now we want to really have this open discussion and kind of getting ideas tossed around on how we can get to that point. As you said, how do we begin, right? What's ground zero, and then how do we get to our deliverables that we want to be meaningful, right? I think one of the things that caught my attention when you spoke earlier, Vanessa, was finding the root causes, right? I think that we have a lot of data, right? That was presented and we'll probably be collecting overall. But I think that one of the things that really caught my attention, and I went back to rewatch the initial video where we first saw Matt, was there's a lot of data out there, but the data doesn't explain why things are happening, right? What's the root cause of it? And so I'll just leave it at that. And so I'll kick it back to you, Vanessa, and then I think we can begin that conversation if people are okay with that.
Yes. And I don't know, going back to the question, or how are we gonna find the co-chair here? I would say, like, whoever has the capacity and time that would like to jump on, like, say, yes, I'll help with that. I think I'm open to any kind, like, no very structure, like, because there's no time. I think whoever would like to, because I would love to, but I don't have the capacity. Like, I'm very, very, very busy, but I don't know if.
So I guess my question is, do members feel like this is something that we can take on right now in terms of nominating the co-chair, or do we want to table this until after the discussion? So raise your hand if you would rather nominate someone now. Raise your hand if you prefer to have that discussion towards the end. Okay, got it. So what we'll do is, Danielle, is that you raising your hand for my question, or do you have an actual question?
No, just raise your hand. I was trying to raise it.
Okay, got it. Okay, so if it's okay with everyone, let's table how we nominate our co-chair towards the end. And then I guess let's just get right into the discussion, if that's okay with everyone. So I know, Nora, you shared a little bit about how you see this a little bit. I wonder if perhaps maybe if members want to just kind of have an open forum where, someone raises their hand and they go, or do we want to do like every member has about like 2 to 3 minutes or as much time as possible? We go around to kind of get ideas.
For me, I will keep it informal, but let's see what other people say.
Okay, cool. So let's keep it informal.
Okay. I like what Nora mentioned about hopefully this is not gonna be another thing that we already have or already heard somewhere, that okay, one more thing that it sounds and it looks very nice in paper, but that's all. So I still would love for us to see if we are on the same page when it comes to what we understand about hate, how that looks like for us in our community. But going even, I think, like a introspective evaluation, like where that comes from, like what that kind of hate comes from. Like, is that a self-concept of the individual that is trying to get attention, trying to get revenge about something dramatic that happened in their life? It's because of the, like, and what is something that we have control about? Like, what is something that we can control? Can I control about other people's behavior? What about what I can control? So I've been thinking a lot about this since this morning, I think. Because yeah, I would like to be to be very realistic about what we're gonna be advising, suggesting. Yeah. And I think we all, according to what you described, the kind of work that we all have, I think has something similar. We are maybe experts in listening sessions, focus groups, and we hear community. Okay, we have all of that. We can continue doing it, which is good because it's a good way to really know what is going on. Every day can be different, yes, for different reasons, yes. But what can we do with that? Are those only testimonies that we can have a collection of tons of testimonies, but what can we do with that? And if not, like where the again, like what can we control? Like in my mind is how we respond to any of these attacks, let's say. I can control that. I'm just gonna stop there. Otherwise, I'm gonna continue to talk. I would like to hear from the others.
Thank you, Vanessa. Ruben?
Yeah, so I want to, it's like acknowledge what Nora said, and I think that's like really, really important that it is true that in our community, it is not like these big signs that we see against like other communities, but for what I interact with like the families, I see like that the people experience this in a low level, but it's perversive because it's like constantly, right? It's like it's a constant thing. So you commute. So for instance, when I interact with families, they say, yes, for instance, when I talk with the principal just say these things like, oh, it's because you don't understand. And it's like, okay, it's not something that they will bring against other, or they will bring that, like they will bring up to other families, right? They bring to these families, and these families, they feel, it's like that's passive aggressive. So we need to think like what kind of measures we are gonna recommend, right? And I think that for what we interact with, like I think that the state attorney and the police, right? They have all these definitions like what is a hate crime, right? And they are like basically punishment for like all these hate crimes, but it is not like a repercussion of beyond those when they apply the law, right? So it's like, okay, there's like consequences for like the perpetrator, but I think that we should come up with ideas like, okay, how we can educate that perpetrator. That's like a little bit what NCPS is like trying to do. Is like, okay, try to not only criminalize the person, but re-educate that person, and that person should be part of like the process. And I think that other cohorts, they are like also working on like preventive care. That I think that is like where also we have to work with our communities in this passive aggressive message that, hey, how we can stop or make people aware, like, it's like when for instance, when I talk with like the principal of the school, is like, hey, you should be aware that when you talk with the families, you are talking in a way that you should change the kind of like the kind of tone that you use, with these families, and I think that that's important. So I think that we have to work, at least for our communities, in a much lower level that address all those things. It's gonna be challenging, but I want to hear from you all.
Yeah.
So I want to chime in a little bit here. When I was looking at the set of data that was provided thus far, right? The first thing that I thought was, particularly amongst the Latino Hispanic community, was how was this data collected, right? And was there enough input from our community to even reflect the true statistics of what's happening, right? One of the things that caught my attention, right, when the state attorney was talking was, we need your help to report this and to give valuable information. And I think that this talks and hits a little bit about what Nora was saying, right, which is there's a lot of barriers already put in place and obstacles for our community, right? You know, communicating stuff, language access, right, with housing issues and health and workforce and education, right? And so I think that if we don't unravel those barriers, right, if our members are not able to read pamphlets, are not able to understand how to make calls, are not feeling comfortable reporting this to the police, right, then we don't really have the full picture there. We don't really have statistics and data that is really reflecting what could potentially be happening in our communities. And we just don't know because there's just so many obstacles and barriers, especially amongst our immigrant and undocumented community within our community. And so I think that when she started off the meeting saying, I love listening sessions, but none of this will matter if we don't address those barriers already put into place, right? Or already making this work extremely difficult. I think that I agree with her in that. So I guess one, right, do we believe that the data and statistics that are highlighted amongst Latinos and Hispanic community members, is that accurate, right? Do we believe that, you know, it paints the full picture? In my personal opinion, it almost oftentimes does not, right? Because we often get excluded from these types of conversations. We're oftentimes not even at the table to have this conversation. And so I think that, you know, going back to what Nora had originally proposed, right? We need to be able to get to the table before we can even start exploring what's happening with this data. But two, I also believe that, listen, as someone who has been to plenty of listening sessions, right? I also believe that there's a place for them, specifically when we're talking about root causes, as Vanessa was highlighting earlier, right? Like all these policy recommendations are going to be great, but ultimately, I want to hear from community members themselves, right? Like, why do you believe, you know, there is an abundance of hate incidents in MCPS schools, right? Like, what does that mean to our community members? Like, what types of scenarios or incidences are they facing, but probably not reporting or probably don't feel comfortable sharing? But I want to also say that, you know, it happens from our community as well, right? I've seen scenarios where we've had our own community members who have participated, right? Unfortunately, in this, you know, anti-hate process, right? In terms of like, you know, they're being the ones that are doing unfortunately the crime, or I guess not the crime, but like, you know, doing creating hate against other groups as well. And I personally witnessed it, right, in terms of, you know, having community members, right, just maybe perhaps not realizing it or doing it. And so I think that those listening sessions and having those conversations could potentially serve us as really having, you know, real conversations with community members and really kind of getting their perception in regards to why they believe or where they believe the root cause is stemming from. And so I'm curious to hear from community members, right? I'm curious to see how in what way we can make this meaningful, so that we're not just having another listening session just to have a listening session, but what specific data are we looking to pull, right? Because it goes back to what I originally said. Do we believe that we have sufficient amount of data that is really reflective of what's happening on the ground with our community members? So that's just my 2 cents, and I will pass it off to anyone.
I think.
Yes, one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ruben.
No, I just want to say, you know, like, just like what just like Alex said is like it's really important because I see, for instance, with our communities, no matter how many ways we try to communicate with them, like send flyers, in Spanish, in English, like nothing replace, the actual talk in person or via through Zoom with them. So I think that yes, we need to encourage that and we need to have that. Yes, the only thing that I want to.
I think so I just wanted to say that I think having that community voice is super important. And I'm also a little concerned because of the time. So October 10th is not that much time. And the end of August, we're already going back to school. Then there will be back to school events, Hispanic Heritage Month events. These are usually very, very busy months and weekends in our community because of Hispanic Heritage Month, right? And so, and our community members will be split into different obligations or commitments. So I think a couple things. So identity, we have 140 active Latino parents who we could probably access for a listening session online if we wanted to do something, but we'd have to be quick about it and we'd have to know what we want to ask. I would say that there's a lot of listening session reports out there. The Black and Brown Coalition conducted listening sessions with Black and Latino parents around how they felt welcomed at schools, if they feel like they had the right information. And I think it was 150 Latino parents were interviewed for those focus groups. And UMD did that report. Identity in Casa did focus groups on healthcare for all. And I believe there were 300 Latino community members across the county that participated in those focus groups, and Alex Michelle is in charge of that. And I believe a report is being generated about like what are the barriers to access for healthcare. So I feel like a lot of people have done focus groups. So yes, it is important to have voice if you can get it like as a primary source. But if we don't have enough time to pull a focus group together, then I would suggest that there are documents available publicly where we can hear from the community. There was the anti-racist audit, which more than 1,000 parents answered for Montgomery County, talking about how Latinos feel within the county. And there is a 400-page report that summarizes what they got back from the Latino community and how they feel in schools. So again, I think there's a lot of that out there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily. And if there's something specific that we feel is missing, then maybe we could do a mini something to complement. But that's just my opinion. I'm just trying to think about time and resources.
I was about to raise my hand, but I would love to hear from the people that didn't talk yet. If it's possible.
Good. Danielle, I don't know if you were able to chime in or.
Yeah, definitely. I was driving. I was trying not to be distracted because I was doing a pickup for a family. When it comes to our families, we've got about 500 families in our program and over 1,000 kids. And we keep hearing the same thing back. Just like school segregation is one of the biggest issues we have in the county right now. You have your different like cliques of groups. Like the Hispanics are one group, the Asians are one group, but no one's really creating bridges or creating any program that can get them connected properly from our earliest stages. So I work with elementary all the way through high school, and there's that gap right in middle school where they get segregated. Like middle school, elementary is the older kids are very aware of what they start to know about race, know about racism and things like that. But as they get to middle school, it just takes over, and then when you talk to principals or teachers or any of the counselors, they're just overwhelmed with the amount of work, and they're not willing to put in the help. Especially the Latino community in general, they're just like it's a cultural thing. This kid just came from his country, and now is trying to join the school system, and they don't speak English, so they got to go to ESOL. So there's a lot of segregation created by actual teachers at schools, and when the issue is brought up to the principal or anyone within the county, is like, oh, we're trying to train him properly, but training never happens. So it's also a systematic issue that I keep hearing from my parents and my youth. They keep bringing the same thing. Like I went to my counselor, I was dealing with these issues at home, and all she told me is like, well, yeah, that's not what I'm trained for. So so they're being sent back from our own community, our own Latino teachers, our own Latino uh, counselors. So that's that's what I gotta share.
Danielle, I have a question for you. Have you guys
Yes.
done perhaps a listening session just particular to youth? in
We
your-
have. So we send a couple of surveys and also sit up just listening to the disconnect between high schoolers and parents in the community. It was about 300 people. And there were a lot of shocking things. Just, parents shutting down their kids because they're tired from work. They work 2 or 3 jobs, get home, their kid wants to talk to them, and you just share with them about their day. And they're like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. Like, I'm too tired. We'll talk about it later. The later never happens. So these kids tend to, go to other places where they can be listened. And sometimes those are gangs or just not the right people. So
Go ahead, Vanessa.
I think someone else is that didn't have the opportunity to share yet, because I would like to hear from everyone first before talking.
Yeah, so Vanessa, Milagros is just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I
and
yeah,
Berta's, yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Yes. In order to really feel that we are doing something, in order to advance in this problem, I think we all have, yes, we all have something that we can contribute here from the work that we've been doing and the things that we've been hearing that we can bring here. And we can see all the studies, research that it was done before and see what is not in everything, but maybe the most significant or the ones that we think like really talks about the reality. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. And see how segregation, that's a reality. That is something that we know, that it happens a lot. Another, like if we're talking about schools, we know that another group that is really neglected in a way is the special education parents, special education world, I would say. And nobody's, or there are few organizations that work with those parents. For example, Parent Place, one of the organizations, but it's always the capacity issue and other issues like transportation, because their meetings are in Gatesburg or like pretty far from where I am right now. As an example. But I know about that experience of special education. That's why I know that it's a lot of help needed. talking about specific examples about how I would feel I would feel kind of racism, and yeah, if we all know about the IEP document, with all the goals for your kid are and what they would be accomplishing. There was a friend that I had. This is a white lady. She was curious to see the document that I had comparing to her daughters. And I have a daughter, same age, same class, special education. When we compared those documents, because she was trying to help me, like saying, I don't see that your daughter is advancing much. How come? If you want, we can see I can take a look, she said. So let's compare. We compare both documents. And it was, yes, I felt really that the system was really tricky with me, because her goal, it was a SMART goal, with all the characteristics of a SMART goal, right? She had everything. Mine, it was so general. At that time, I was not paying full attention to those details, because I was more into my drama of how I'm gonna help my daughter, what is she gonna do later in college, how come she's gonna get the accommodations that she needs, and blah blah blah. But it was like, okay, since then, of course, I was investigating more and see that you have to fight for those accommodations, you have to fight for those resources. Thanks God that I have been the skill, the language, and I was able. And yeah, I had to learn more about the system itself. But that's an example of how people can feel this, racism, being treated differently.
Thank you, Vanessa. Ruben?
So I just want to drop here like one idea. What do you think if we because we are sharing a lot of ideas, but I think that we are gonna need to start working and organize, like our thoughts and how we are gonna reach the communities and all the data. What do you think of like sharing, like through Google Docs, like certain kind of information? And I think that Berta, could you guide us? It's like I guess that this is like a good way actually to work together, right?
Yes, yeah, certainly. I will just mention that because of Open Meetings Act, you'll certainly have to whatever, I'm sorry, so you're gonna have to have these discussions in public too. So like I mentioned to you, like the Muslim cohort is doing, they're gonna do their own research and each come prepared at their next meeting to talk about that, the different recommendations, policy, research, ideas that they did, so that again, it'll be out, available to the public, and also we're already taking care of sharing public notices so that people can actually also participate in this meeting. So yeah.
Yeah, so that will be the idea that, all the information that we have get there and we collect, and everybody's working together, it's like will be public,
Yeah.
That's a good idea, Ruben. I think that, we still have our homework to do, right? I know that Nora also shared earlier some reports that are already out there from listening sessions that we can upload. So I think that us individually, right, looking at these documents, reading those reports from the listening sessions from other agencies that have done some extensive background on this, right? And kind of identifying whether we think those reports obviously are in line with the actual of what's happening, but also what's missing, right? Like what areas do we feel that are not in the report? I will say that just doing a time check at 2:05, because I know this is over. I want to kind of just do, I guess, like a recommendation, right? Given the short timeline and some of the other competing events that we're going to be up against, I'm trying to see what are people's thoughts of perhaps doing a listening session towards the end of this month. Nora, do you know when we go back to school by any chance?
Yeah, we go, yeah, el 28. Como lo dijo Vanessa.
Got it, okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry,
No.
Nora.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, hosting at least one listening session, right? And then from there we can evaluate, you know, how many more we need to host, but just giving the public an opportunity to be able to attend this, right? You know, I think the county is doing a wonderful job at least trying to promote this, right? I think it's our responsibility to also promote, you know, hey, that we're on this anti-task force. We really want to hear from you. We want to give you the opportunity to really give input, right? So I guess the question is, one, do members feel okay at least trying to pencil in a listening session? I don't think that we have to have all the details today in regards to what we want, what types of questions or the style, but at least scheduling that in people's calendars. So that way Bertha can begin kind of promoting, and we can give people ample time to really come to this listening session, while at the same time we're looking at these reports, we're doing our due diligence on doing our homework, and then perhaps coming back and having a discussion based off of, after reading the reports, you know, where do we go from there? So I think that's the one step that I'm recommending. Nora, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I might say that as we read through whatever we decide to upload, we might start seeing some systemic patterns. And, you know, and maybe if we can focus on the systemic patterns throughout county agencies, you know, language access is always an easy one for me, you know, because it doesn't matter if you're in the court system or in social services or in housing or whatever, or education, language access would be something that is everywhere, right? But maybe other themes will come up that are like that. And so we can have that balance between specific and general. Because, you know, as Berta told us at the very beginning, County Council has no jurisdiction over MCPS. So I know that a lot of the issues we're going to find are rooted in the school system. But, you know, so thinking through both and, I guess.
Vanessa?
Before I forget, I would like to add to what Nora was just saying. Language that, yeah, we all know that the language access is always an issue. I would like to add to that phrase, like quality of language. There's so many times that happened, any agency says, yes, we have an interpreter, and the interpreter is so bad. So can you imagine how that impact in people's mind? Like we're talking about self-esteem, self-concept, and all those things. Yeah, since we are Hispanic, they're bringing whatever, because it's like, it doesn't matter. They're Hispanic. So it's like, it's not helping on the when we are trying to empower people and saying, we deserve the best quality life, and blah, blah, blah. And then we are having these kind of services. Or a flyer, yes, we have a flyer in Spanish. And then the flyer doesn't make sense because they didn't, I don't know, you're giving a native person to, can you please take a look and see if this makes sense? So those are important details, I think, that really impact in people's, because we are, I think, every day, I want to believe that we all are trying to how can I say, uplift the spirit of, yes, we deserve something better. Yes, we deserve a good quality life and all those kind of things. But this is not helping. And in anything that we do, let's, ¿cómo se dice? Les apuntemos por calidad de servicio, calidad de lo que hacemos nosotros para con la gente, porque obviamente somos, es la imagen, así merecemos, eso merecemos, calidad. So, yeah. That part.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa and Nora. Okay, so I think I would like to propose that we find a date, if that's okay with people, to have our first listening session. My understanding is the 28th is when school starts, right? Which is a Monday, August 28th, correct? Not September, August 28th is when school starts. So there's two there's two options, right? Do we think we have enough time to put together a quality listening session? Remember, we're also going to have the support from the county to be able to help us out with a lot of this. So, but do we have enough time to do to put together a quality listening session before school starts, right? Or are we going to have to find like a date in all the la pura, ¿verdad? Está pasando septiembre, where we can maximize turnout. I don't know what thoughts or opinions. Nora, given that you that you work a lot with the youth and in the school system, I don't know if you have any thoughts. Roberta, I see that you are muted.
So I unmuted because I also wanted to share, and again, thinking about ways that we can leverage, collaborate, and partner. So Wednesday, August 30th, there, so I don't know if you're aware, but the council has a Latino Civic Project, which is a group of community members who receive a civic curriculum that the council has developed. This started back when Councilmember Navarro was still here, and now Mayra Cruz Solis is the one leading that effort. So she's having a LCP, Latino Civic Project Civic Boot Camp, and is doing a series of meetings with community members who are interested in learning more about, how to become involved with the work of the county council. So I could check in with her and see if she can carve out a space for you to, use that session, because it's already on the calendar for August 30th to start gathering feedback. And that's actually in person. And of course, it's not a large event. It'll be here at the council. And I think about 25 parents, moms and dads who are going to be there. So that's an example of, one way that we can already collaborate with, this group of constituents. I mean, these are county residents too.
I know Mayra, and I know the work that she's doing, and I think that is like this is gonna be great. It's gonna be going the right direction. So thank you so much, Berta, for bringing that up.
So the thing is, where can we find, so we don't have to do all the recruitment or announcement, and so that's why we are suggesting to do this with them.
It's just an idea. Again, it's Latino constituents, parents with children, like I mentioned, because they're already organizing that meeting and planning on holding that session in person. Like I said, I can work with Mayra to carve some space into the agenda for that day. Of course, this is in addition to the community listening session that I'm sure will be a lot more robust. Again, this is just something that's already on the calendar, and I mean, it's with the Latino community. So
okay,
the more the merrier. The more the merrier, I would say.
More the merrier, yes. And I would like to offer something. because I think I'm interested in doing it with a group that, so twice a month, I mentioned that I am coordinating a food distribution here in New Hampshire State's elementary. They are giving us the space, and Cheer is doing the food distribution. So normally we have like an average of 300 families coming on food. It's only on food that we don't do cards. And honestly, it's the best excuse that I've been having since the pandemic to meet with community members. So you can imagine community members in the line, and we've been doing surveys, we've been doing different things that is allowing us to have this conversation with community members. So I would love to do if it's a survey, if it's I'm imagining some kind of a survey with community members here. That's an offer.
And let me just share, and this is more specific to some community outreach work that I've been doing here at the council since, I do community outreach, multicultural communications. So let me see, I have the calendar in front of me. I've been organizing what we are calling community outreach pop-up events. And what I did is go with council staff, actually not Mayra Cruz, but Mayra Bayonet from council member Albornoz joined me on the effort. So we did go meet our community at different places. So we would set up a resource table at, for example, libraries, recreation centers, different community events. And we always come to these outreach events with a small survey, right? To your point, Vanessa, that's something that you can agree on, maybe 1-2 questions. We just have one question that says, can you please share with us your community needs and priorities? And we have 1, 2, 3. So we're taking down that feedback, and we're also including a QR code. So if you're not able to answer that question while we're there, you also have the opportunity to scan the code and input that feedback into a Google form. So I absolutely love your idea, Vanessa, and I will say that that's something that's very tangible, practical to you, and you would have to only agree on the question, right, based on the charge of this effort. Yeah.
And yes, and I will love for all of us to really put a lot of effort on making these questions very relevant for people, because and also thinking that please try to use the asset-based approach. Like, it's kind of difficult here, but of course, because we are talking all the time about what we need. And most of the time we don't think about the things that we already have with the community. And something that I'm very cautious is with, because I've been doing a lot of, and people are responding, participating in decision-making groups, which, it took years for people now to be the speakers of a forum that, for example, now we are organizing at the end of this month. But so that's why I would love to, I think it's very important for this question to be relevant, and know one more time to be asked, what do you need? What is the main concern that you have? They've been asked that like many times. Something more specific, something more maybe relevant, yes. And that they can really share something. And also saying exactly how we're going to use this information, because it's not just getting, extracting the information from them, and that's it. Who knows what's going to happen after this? So I'm being real about what is next. how they can do a follow-up of what they are participating, because it's not all the time I see that. And from other people are coming to us and saying, can you please have a group of people and they can talk about this? And it's not just extracting the information, and they're happy with the information and data and all of the things because of the grant. So that's something that I would like to not to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. And I do want to just say that we're at a time check. We have about 10 minutes to go. So I think that I heard a few things, right? There was a proposal from Bertha. Thank you, Bertha, to join in on an event that's already in place at the County Council on August the 30th, on Wednesday, August the 30th. And then I also know that we were also in the middle of discussing potential dates for a bigger listening session. And then last but not least, also hearing that there's also potential events that we can join in on with the county, right? In terms of doing authentic outreach with community members. And so instead of community members coming to us, right, we're going to their specific areas and neighborhoods, right? And doing, having conversations, but also doing a survey as well. So with all that in mind, right, and all the different options, I want to say, first and foremost, are we okay with joining in on the event on August 30th? Do people think that it's an event that we can that's worth our while? Let's start off with that one event first.
I think it will be worth our while for sure. I will not be able to participate as I'll be on PTO, but I trust that you guys will be able to do it.
Got it. I do have a logistical question, Bertha. For this particular event, would this be considered an actual cohort meeting if we reach quorum, or how is this going to work, right? Like, can one of us or two of us go, or all of us go? But does it become an unofficial meeting?
let me follow up with that, because you're engaging with the community, but I'll certainly follow up with our attorneys just to make sure. Okay.
Okay, got
it. That's an excellent question.
Got it. Okay, but I think by show of hands, we're fine with the 30th being an event that we can collaborate with on August the 30th, correct? Awesome. Okay, so we'll officially put that in the calendar, right? And we'll coordinate with Bertha. Bertha, you just let us know how that's going to work out logistically in terms of that. Next action item, in regards to the listening session, do we have any recommendations in regards to date? We don't have to have all the details down, but I think if we do want to have a listening session sooner than later, do we believe that we can squeeze something in before the end of this month? Or do we want to propose a date in September, or do we want to just table this proposal altogether and kind of get back to this in our next meeting?
I would say that let's try to get it as soon as possible, because I think that we are going to run out of time. It's like we have 2 months, and it's like we need to start hammering and start working. I think that what we have now.
Got it. Okay. So
at the same time, I would add something. So let's say from wherever we're gonna do like the getting the data, getting the inputs. We have to analyze that. We have to do what are we gonna do with that information? We have to discuss on how we're gonna use that information.
Yes, of course. Yes, great point. Okay, so given that the school starts on the 28th, that we actually have an anti-task force meeting on the 29th, right? And then when we have the event on the 30th, would anyone like to propose a specific date between now and the up to the 28th? And I guess, Bertha, my question to you is, let's say like we decide, hey, we want to do a listening session a week from today, right? Does that work with you guys? Are you guys going to be able to pull off logistically?
We need at least a week. I'll just say that. And I had this conversation with my supervisor earlier, and she was saying, give us at least a week. Is this being virtual or in person that you're thinking?
Yeah, so let's vote on that. Do we want to have it in person at a certain location? Do we want to have it virtually, a hybrid option?
I think that we need to keep all our options open. What do you think, Nora? Probably you have more experience with these kind of events than us, right?
So I would think that we haven't developed any questions. We haven't figured out, I think we need at least 2 weeks to do that. It gives Bertha a week that her supervisor's asking her for. And I would say virtual because finding a time and a date to hold it is going to be tough. What we found at Identity is that Tuesdays or Thursdays usually work best. Wednesdays, families typically have church. And if we do it virtually, then families who work at night can typically join in via their telephones. So, and we do it somewhere between 5:30 and 6, or 5 and 6 is start time. But I think first of all, I want to just propose that the order might be within the next week, we make sure that we upload the reports that we have access to. And who here is going to be responsible for creating a shared place to upload?
Alex, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it? It's up to you guys.
That's fine. I can do it, or either or.
Okay.
Bertha, I don't know. Is that something that you need to do, or are we okay with doing that, or would you rather create it and then have us have access to it?
Whatever works best for you guys. I'm
a little confused with your question, Alex. So Berta is the facilitator. So I think you should decide on who's gonna be responsible to have a place where we can upload.
Yeah. I think the reason I ask is because she's doing a good job at centralizing all the information.
I'm not questioning that. It's just that the role, Berta's role is facilitator, right? So that's it.
But I'm also helping with administrative things too, and logistics. So I'm happy to do this.
So what I would say is that we try to get the reports up. Is it feasible to get reports and materials up by Tuesday of next week or Wednesday of next week?
I think that we can.
Because my suggestion would be that if we all agree to put up whatever we want to put up for all of us to read, that we read everything by the 18th. And then I would suggest we have a meeting to say, these are the themes that I think really resonated with me or whatever. Decide that. And then from that conversation, we can say, okay, these are the questions that we want to ask the community related to those themes, rather than to start with the listening session. Because if you tell the community to tell you about how they're doing, they're going to be all over the place. We like to talk. So, which is not bad, but we just don't have the time, right?
And we have to have very clear objectives of this. What are we going to get from the conversation? I think it's a good idea. I don't know what the thing, the rest thing.
Yeah, so the reports, I think that we can put the links there, and then you can storm about like what we analyze, the reports, and then share all that ideas, and then start to work there, be like our workspace there.
So should we try to schedule a meeting either on the 18th or a meeting on the week of the 21st to sort of touch base about what we've read and what we recommend?
I think so. What the rest, thinks, but I think that we should.
Okay, so what does everybody's schedule look like? So I'm gonna start vacation on the 24th, and I won't be back until after Labor Day. So
what about the 18th that you mentioned?
I have time on the 18th. I'm available. I'm available anytime between 11 and 4.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I have the same availability on the 18th.
Same right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Alex and Ruben?
Yeah, that sounds good for me. I could make it work, it's like I'm flexible.
Right.
So,
Alex, what about you?
yeah, on the 18th, which is Friday, I can do that time frame. I guess to narrow it down more specifically, can people meet at 1:30, or 2 o'clock? Which one?
One.
One is better.
1 is better.
Yeah.
1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds
Awesome.
good.
Okay, so we officially have a date for the next cohort meeting, which will be Friday, August the 18th at 1 p.m.
And who will be sending out the invite? Bertha, will that be you?
And so then I think that Ruben, since you volunteered, can you get a Google Drive going with the group? And share with the group so that way people can start uploading documents. Can I even tighten the timeline even more and say that any documents that you want to submit should be submitted no later than a week from today? So Tuesday, August 15th, right? So that way we have time to at least have a few days to read the material and come prepared for the 18th. Is that okay with everyone, that by Tuesday, August 15th, people should have, ideally the sooner the better, right? But are we good with that?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And then, we'll convene on the 18th, have a further discussion, and then plan out future dates from there. And then finally confirming that on the 30th, Wednesday, August the 30th, right, we're gonna do that that event with the county. And Bertha, you'll get back to us in regards to how that's gonna work out, whether we're gonna have to officially call it as an official cohort meeting and whatnot. So,
Bertha,
Yeah.
did you want that small group or do you want us to invite more people?
Let me check in with Mayra because she's actually the one leading and organizing the event. There's a bit of space limitations, but I'll find out. Of course, depending on that, then I'll get back to you on that.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Wow, I feel like we got a lot more done and I feel better.
Yes, me too. Like now, like we are like hands-on.
All right, sounds good. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. You
Sure.
do the
You too.
same.
Mhm.
Bye.
Keep in touch. Bye.
Thanks for joining, Milagros. Bye.
Bye-bye.